Alright, so I saw that article about surfers and snowboarders and skateboarders all arguing about how we should be calling our tricks and who's right and who's wrong. So I thought I'd make this video to try to explain why surfers call it the way we do and why you can't compare them, because really they're totally different. So snowboarders and skateboarders are comparing what we do on a wave to what they do in a half pipe, when surfers really are riding what's most like a really long quarter pipe, and the objective is totally different. So you can pretend this is your surfboard. This is the front, this is the back. So in surfing, the objective is to ride down the line, do your maneuver, and keep riding down the line. Unless you do your maneuver off a section and it's a closeout and you have to go straight again. Now, in snowboarding and skateboarding, the objective in a half pipe is to come straight up, do your maneuver, come straight back down the ramp to the other side, and do your next maneuver. So, they're already different, because in surfing, you want to keep going down the line. Snowboarding, skateboarding, you want to go to the other side. Now, snowboarders and skateboarders are calling their moves correct. And it's easy for them because, for the most part, they take off at a straight angle and land back down at a straight angle. Where in surfing, we're dealing with a moving surface unlike any other sport, so the angles we take off at vary. Lots of times we take off at an angle like this, other times it's more like this, and when we land, sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's like that. Now in these sports, we've chosen to use increments of 180, so 180, 360, 540, 720, 900, and it works really well in snowboarding and skateboarding, but it doesn't in surfing because of the various angles we take off and land. A lot of times we're in between those angles, so we just tend to round up or round down to make it easier. Now, I'm going to explain why in surfing we should be rounding slightly down, and the main reason is because we have fins. And every time we land backwards, we have to revert out of our maneuver for it to be considered complete. Where in snowboarding and skateboarding, you can land backwards and that's fakey, and you make it to the other side of the ramp and your move is complete. Surfing, we can't do that. So, here's in surfing what I would call an air 360 and what snowboarders and skateboarders think we should be calling air 540s. So, we come down the line, usually take off at an angle about like this, do our maneuver, boom, there's 360 degrees. Now, although we land usually like this, we still have to call it a 360 because it's definitely not a 540. For it to be 540, we would have to land like this, which you just don't do. So, that's an air 360 in surfing. Now, I'm going to show you what I call an air 540 to revert 720. And this is the most that's ever been done on a surfboard. You come up at an angle like this, boom, 360, 540. Now, the most we've done is land about like this. Yes, it's more than a 540 in the air, but it's not a 720. It's in between the two. Now, we land backwards, and we have to revert out of that move for it to be considered complete. So yes, at the end of the maneuver, we've gone slightly over 720 degrees. But we can't call it a 720 because the rotations we did in the air was 540, and the rest of the rotation was done on the wave. And every time you land backwards, you have to revert out of the maneuver. So you have to call it a 540 to revert 720. You can't call it a 720 and count the rotations done on the face of the wave, because if you were to do that same maneuver, boom, 360, 540, and keep spinning and land straight again, which is slightly more than a 720, you'd be calling it the same move. And it's a much greater feat to land straight again than to have to revert out of that maneuver. So in surfing, we have to call our reverts. If you want to call those moves, if you want to round up and call them 720s, you have to say 540 to revert 720. You can't just call it a straight 720. So this is why surfing and snowboarding, skateboarding is totally different, because the angles we take off at vary, and we have to slightly round down on our rotations because of the revert factor, where in snowboarding and skateboarding, you don't have to do that. And if you were to revert out of your move, snowboarding and skateboarding, they would call the revert. So yeah, it's kind of hard to understand. I wish I had like an actual wave and moves to show you like on a computer screen, but I don't know. This is how I think it has to be called. It makes the most sense. Well, actually, what makes the most sense is if we actually called the exact degrees, but that would just get way too confusing. So I hope you understand why it's different, and hopefully this stops that stupid fucking argument. All right.